craziest stories of aviation history is now well preserved in East Wenatchee. In the autumn of 1931, Washington pilot Clyde Pangborn and his co-pilot Hugh Herndon Jr. were attempting to make a trans-Pacific non-stop flight. To prepare for that, they went from Siberia to Japan, and then when they landed in Japan, they were identified as having taken several photographs above Japanese military bases and were jailed. Japanese government eventually released them back to their plane, the Miss Vidal, and gave them one opportunity to take off and go across the Pacific back home to the United States, with the condition that if they had to turn around and return to Japan, they would be jailed again, this time indefinitely. Their plane, the Miss Vidal, had a recommended fuel capacity of about 600 gallons of fuel, but they put over 900 inside, hoping that they could make it all the way across the Pacific. They almost didn't make the takeoff, however, because they were so overburdened with fuel. At one point, Clyde Pangborn, a noted daredevil and barnstormer, actually got out onto the wing of the plane and started to jettison their landing equipment so that they could reduce the amount of weight and continue going across the Pacific. Now bear in mind, this is in October of 1931. And these absolute legends make it all the way across the Pacific from Misawa, Japan, to Washington State, where they're planning to land in Seattle, but it's entirely socked in by fog. They make the decision to push across the state and eventually maybe even go so far as Boise, but every place they radio into is completely filled with fog. So they turn around and land in East Wenatchee. But with the majority of their landing equipment having been jettisoned to accommodate for that extra weight, they skid into a sagebrush field and crash land it safely. Now today, the Wenatchee Valley Museum and Cultural Center has a replica of the Miss Vidal that they continue to fly throughout the area, but one of the strangest artifacts, in my opinion, is not the bent propeller that they maintain inside the museum on display, but a almost 100-year-old sandwich. That's right, my friends, a local by the name of John Walls in East Wenatchee was such a Clyde Pangborn superfan that he snatched his sandwich from the wreckage and kept it inside a red tobacco tin until it was eventually donated to the museum, where it is now kept under 4 layers of protection to prevent it from, well, going gross. Pangborn and Herndon successfully achieved the title of the first ever non-stop trans-Pacific flight, and it was dicey all the way through. The story is really incredible, and I encourage you to check it out in depth over in East Wenatchee.